This morning at the Cope newsroom, they were saying, I bet you can't put Palanje and Carvajal in the same sentence. And he said, no, hold my drink. It certainly helped that the right back of Real Madrid, the captain and winner of 6 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid, got injured right there, so that their wishes would come true. Look at how many ways there are to make headlines, right? Anyway, beyond the joke, the topic is serious and quite sad. It's not just because Carvajal is going to the World Cup with Spain, which I know may not matter to some of you, whether you're not Spanish or don't support the national team. Anyway, I'm not going to explain why, because you know it perfectly well. You already know that I'm right there on the other side. Absolutely. And he's explained it a million times, but that's not the point of this video. Not at all. But you don't care. But he's going to miss these 2 weeks because he has that fracture in the 5th toe of his right foot. And I think he's not going to play anymore. And if he does, well, we'll see. Maybe a few minutes there, maybe a farewell at the Bernabeu, and that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. The worst thing about all of this is how Carvajal is going to leave Real Madrid. Carvajal, 6 Champions Leagues. A hugely important player from what may be the second best era in Real Madrid's history, or even one on a par with the very best. Homegrown player, the one who laid the first stone together with Di Stefano for the Valdebebas training complex, etc. Even though a lot of people are probably writing, what a bad captain, what a guy. Look, we don't know much about what has happened at Real Madrid in recent months. We have no idea because we haven't seen it, no matter how much they tell us. Even because here, of course, we might think that, for example, in the case of Ceballos, that Ceballos is out of line and that Arbeloa is right about that. In the case of Carvajal, that Carvajal is selfish and only wanted to go to the national team and so on, and Arbeloa is right. It's just that until we know the facts, and maybe we'll never know them, we'll never know. I definitely wouldn't dare make such bold diagnoses. But well, and this even puts me at odds with people who watch my own channel. I see you because I read your comments, who are completely against Carvajal. But well, I insist, we don't know everything here. We don't know everything that has happened there. And I don't want this to be understood as if I don't like Arbeloa or anything like that. I think Arbeloa is going to be a great coach. I think he has done everything he could here. I think that although today he gave a diagnosis, and we'll go over it now, it was about time he did, and it's a very good point. By the way, about what's happening in Real Madrid's squad and how they approach the matches. Every match, absolutely every match. And that's been the key reason why Madrid has lost lousy matches and we've thrown away the league. But of course, Arbeloa is making that diagnosis now when I think he should have done it earlier, although, well, he was giving hints. And then I honestly think that when it comes to dealing with the squad, he made a mistake. But anyway, otherwise, he made a mistake when dealing with the squad. I say this because of all the flattery. If what you really think is that there's a lack of team spirit and too much individualism, then let them know, even publicly. But he tells you no, that he will always protect his players publicly. Well, some more than others, some more than others. Because as we already mentioned back then, with that response about Carvajal with very little affection, for his part, he was more focused on punishing the journalist who had asked him because he knew why he had asked that, than on treating Carvajal with affection, when in the previous and following questions, he had treated Vinicius, Camavinga, and some other players with a lot of affection. Then he tried to fix it in the next press conference, but well, it came to nothing. Well, one more injury, Carvajal's, which has zero impact on the team's performance. It doesn't really matter to us anymore because we've already lost everything, but still, it's mainly about his personal situation and how he's going to end up, how this Real Madrid legend story is going to end. I mean, he's going to have his last few minutes at the Bernabeu in the last, or second to last, I think it's the last match against Athletic Club de Bilbao. Well, it would be a farewell, just like Benzema had against Athletic Club de Bilbao. I think that's how it went. Benzema had that farewell at Madrid, some applause, a bit of an emotional moment, and that's it. I think the same will happen with Carvajal, since Madrid won't renew his contract. So, well, anyway, that's the sad news we're starting with, which happened right after the press conference we broadcast live here on this channel at 10:30 in the morning, Spain time. I invite you to watch it because it's already available as a replay. I'll put it as an overlay at the end of this video on the right side as you look at the screen. And well, in the press conference, Arbeloa said this, and for me, that's the big headline. I mean, finally. Arbeloa said this about his players, but not just about his players. I think it's a criticism of his players and also of the mentality, the philosophy with which the first team of Real Madrid operates. What I understand, and what Arbeloa is criticizing here in a very subtle way, is that from above, it's understood that the squad has to be told how to conduct themselves, because if not, things get cut off. Energy. I think here he spoke a little bit on behalf of Ancelotti. He speaks for his friend, who I think is still his friend, Xabi Alonso. And he also speaks for himself because he just arrived and hasn't had time. There are a lot of people writing, why haven't you changed it since January? It's just that it's very hard to change a trend, a long-standing dynamic that's been in place for years. It's very hard to change it. And that's what Arbeloa couldn't handle. And I think the question from Alberto Pereiro of Onda Cero was very well asked, and Arbeloa's answer for me is a swipe.
I know you all focus on recent refereeing issues, but you said you only discussed the time since you've been here. I wanted you to explain to me what could have happened after the break when you left in great form, beating Manchester City and Atletico de Madrid, and then at the moment when you have to fit Kylian and Jude back in, that's when you've only won one match. Can you share what you think happened there?
Well, a lot of things. There are a lot of matches, and it's true that the results are far from what Real Madrid should be achieving. And I'll say it again, against teams where nowadays you can't beat anyone just by showing up. But it's clear that the difference in level between Real Madrid's players and the teams we face is there on paper. And we have to improve a lot, as I always say, on a collective level. Nowadays, I think that even with the talent we have, it's not enough to just put the ball on the floor and play individually. I think we need to have a collective idea, a plan, a structure, some patterns, some movements to know what our teammate is going to do, how we want to disrupt the opponent. All of that obviously leads to a mindset that might be different from what we've had before. And we've paid for it with points.
He's absolutely right. He's spot on. But now he's saying it too late. He's saying it too late. He was giving hints. He said you have to play here at 200%, no less. And I tell my players that too. But those phrases like the talent we have isn't enough. There's a big gap between us and the teams we've lost to, but you don't win just by getting off the bus. You need structure, patterns, movements, knowing how to disrupt the opponent, and you need a different mentality than the one we've had. It's just that, to me, it seems like a bombshell. And of course, the way to change that is the way you've done it, Arbeloa, constantly praising your players, even in the press conference where you say that, always buttering them up. Man, I don't think so. You don't have to start a war in public, right? But there are a lot of people who will criticize me for saying this. No. Why would you want the Real Madrid coach to stir up trouble? Players, Miguel, why? Many of those telling me this believe Mourinho was a genius, that his return would be great for Real Madrid, and that his time there was fantastic. Hey, Mourinho would throw, heaps of crap at his players whenever he thought it was necessary in a press conference. He called Benzema a kitten to see if he would wake up. He told Cristiano Ronaldo, well, of course, when someone is sad, when someone comes up to the microphones and says they're sad, remember when Cristiano said that in 2012, was it 2012 or 2013? In 2012, in the 2012-2013 season, since Ancelotti was already there by 2013-2014, this was in September. So Mourinho would say, we've lost the league and so many points compared to Barca at the start of the season because one is sad and the other, I don't know what. Hey, Mourinho really criticized them. Well, of course, if you say now we're lacking mentality and collective commitment and we think we're going to win these games individually, then if you just praise them, man, well, things happen, like what we're seeing now, I'm telling you. Now, let's talk about Mbappé. But before we get to Mbappé, this is how they see us from the outside. I know that Oliver Kahn, for those of you around my age, you'll remember perfectly, he's a huge enemy of Real Madrid, Oliver Kahn. But they asked him on Sky and said, Klopp to Madrid? He said, I don't know if I would do that if I were Jurgen Klopp. Real Madrid is something completely different. It's a group of superstars who refuse to have any concept imposed on them. The same goes for Xabi Alonso. Damn, it's true. It's true. And that's the image we give. Maybe at some point we haven't been like that. With Ancelotti, in Ancelotti's last great year at Madrid with the double and all that, the team responded, we were a steamroller. And there was commitment there because there was happiness on the bench. And Ancelotti knew how to handle that very well, bringing everyone together. Let's put our egos aside and all that. And he handled it very well because not everyone is like Ancelotti. A guy came in with his own methods and all that, and they said, who the hell is this guy? Boom. With Xavi. Arbeloa came in and said, let's see if I do it differently from my friend Xavi. Because for me, Arbeloa has the same football concept as Xavi Alonso. Method, modern coach, here everyone has to run and all that, but he said, let's see if I butter them up. They also make mistakes because they walk all over you. We're in the same situation, and that's how others see us. And then what is happening now happens because then there's the board's protection of the squad, of the big stars in the squad. Not everyone, huh? Not everyone, huh? If Fran Garcia had done to Xavi Alonso what Vini did, the club might punish him. But since it was Vini, it's different. And I'm not just talking about Vini. This is Kylian Mbappé, man. Let's see. You will never see me say that a football player can't do whatever he wants with his private life, and he's perfectly within his rights on his days off or with his free time, right? As long as you're training with Madrid and you're not going to go to Milan for a night and come back the next day. You finish training with Madrid, you go off wherever, catch your flight back, and you don't sleep much, you sleep even less and all that. You can do that once. But sleeping is extremely important. Resting in order to train is extremely important. Many things. You have to be here to follow the schedules and discipline your club imposes on you. And yes, it's true that he's injured, but the times we've seen him injured, well, he's taken advantage of being in Paris to be with his girlfriend, which is perfectly within his rights to be with his girlfriend. But he has to know that his private life is constantly on display, absolutely on display. And these days, there's been talk about whether he might be faking an injury. They said that about him and Tchouaméni. I don't believe it about Tchouaméni. And about him, I'm starting to think that, and honestly, not long ago, this guy had won me over because of the way he talks, how he talks, the way his mind works, at least from what I see. He's a footballer, you know, and also well-mannered in the sense that he's well-educated, that when he speaks, he says meaningful things, and he speaks Spanish perfectly. I mean, he's not just some fool. He's not the typical footballer where you think, wow, this guy is only good for playing football, and that's it. This guy has a good head on his shoulders. This guy communicates really well. Lately, it's been incredible. It's incredible. And now with this injury, he should be following team discipline. But instead, here he is living the good life with his girlfriend in Italy, which I think is fine. He can do that. But man, take a little more care with your image because you know they're going to show this. They'll show you this from back then. Look here too. Ha, ha, ha. Anyway, I mean, I don't want to add anything because I insist anyone can do whatever they want with their life. But come on. How can you accept this? Let's see. How is a Real Madrid fan going to understand this? How are they going to swallow this? How are they going to digest it? This is them coming out of the restaurant where they were, I think, right? Yes, she comes out first to avoid coming out together, but they'll always end up coming out together. It's just unbelievable, damn. And then someone says, no, so what should she do? Not leave the house? Well, depending on the situation, maybe she shouldn't go out. It's not that you can't leave the house, man, but take care of yourself a little. I'm not involved, just like with Carvajal and Ceballos. I can't say things are the way they are. Or this happened like this because I haven't seen it, because I don't know, because I can't say that Kylian Mbappé is faking an injury. But none of what's being published helps. And then there's how people and Real Madrid fans are going to take it. And be careful with that, huh? Be careful with that. People are on edge, you know? 40 goals. Can you score 40 for me? Awesome, sure. But everything else? Careful. I've changed. And you've seen a bit of that transition in the way I think about the Frenchman lately. I think this guy, since January and since what happened with his knees and all that, I feel like, you know, without knowing for sure, right? Like he's much more indifferent now. Well, that's not the way. That's definitely not the way. Anyway, see you in the next one. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel. Please comment, share, and that's it. Have a good afternoon. Bye.